Welcome back to Focus on Frisco. I'm Shannon. I'm glad you guys stuck around. As promised, Diane McBride is joining me. And I feel like you and Kelsey and I called each other over the weekend to mention what we might be wearing because we're all in that same palette, but it must be fall. Because
beautiful.
We've got it is. And it is beautiful. When I was talking with Kelsey, we mentioned the beautiful snow that we got. It was such a great transition, and I feel like, you know, our summer was gorgeous, and I know that you experienced it in all forms as you were out at the peninsula watching the skateboard park get built, you know, doing the umpteen things that you do, and just seeing what a gorgeous summer we had. It was
beautiful.
It was gorgeous. Outstanding.
Yep. And now you're out there and it's gorgeous as well.
That's it. I know. We've got a bright day shining off the snow, and it's lovely. So we've got something really kind of cool to talk about today, and it was something that I mean, it just kind of took me by surprise, but learning more about the Fieldhouse study that you guys are doing. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. You want to give some background on what this is all about?
I'd love to.
Okay.
So the concept of a Fieldhouse, it's nothing new. And for the county, for years, we've talked about what could a field house look like.
Right.
And so overall, a field house is just picture a big indoor space.
Sure.
Now, what you fill that space with can be whatever the community wants. So a lot of times you're starting with a turf field. So not as typically as big as like a football field, smaller size, but then you can put in it whatever the community decides you'd want to put in that. So whether that be basketball courts, whether that be pickleball courts, whether that be climbing wall, programming space, gymnastics, rentable space, community space.
Ice hockey?
Ice hockey has somewhat been on the side because we do have a very nice ice rink in Breckenridge, so that one's been a little bit more on the side. But so
I just thought I'd throw it in.
Yeah, of course. You're not the first one to throw it in there too. And so the county as a whole, everyone's talked about the concept of a field house. And so about last year, sometime in the early, late winter time frame, we started having discussions with the town managers, the county manager, and said, hey, we've talked about this for a long time. What do you guys think? Is there a need to even have this in the county? And as a lot of the space in the county starts to get developed, you start to wonder, well, maybe now's the time to have this conversation, because if there is a need and there's an opportunity to build one, where does it go?
Right.
And what does that look like? So very, very fortunate right now to get to work with Town of Frisco, of course, and then we've partnered up with the Town of Breckenridge, the Town of Silverthorne, and the county. So all four entities have said, you know what, let's work together and let's start answering some of these questions. So where we're at right now is this needs assessment. And so we put out a random survey to 2,100 people. It's a mail survey, first step. Second one will be an online survey that will be opened up here.
To anybody that wants to click in?
Anybody who wants to click in, anybody. And that'll be on all four of those websites.
Okay.
And so that'll stay open till the end of the month.
Okay.
And so we're really trying to gain feedback here of what are people thinking? Is this something, one, is there a need? Two, would you support it? Meaning, like, how are you going to pay for something like this?
Well, right.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a big cost. It really is, and we understand that as well. So there's many steps to this. So the first step is a needs assessment.
Right.
Plus, really starting to look at really what goes inside something like this. What are we missing out there as a whole in the county?
Well, so I was going to ask that question. So that's really does beg the question, a needs assessment versus a wants assessment.
Correct.
Because in terms of needs, and I'm just going to play kind of devil's advocate here, we have basketball courts, indoor basketball courts at all the schools.
Yep.
You know, so we have these wonderful recreation centers that hold pickleball and tennis. So how do you differentiate between that line as you're at the starting point? Because you haven't heard from everybody yet.
Correct.
Right.
You know, yeah.
So what made you take that step and say, well, maybe these aren't just wants, they are needs?
Yeah, you know, it's a wonderful question, and I think that's probably a little bit of where most folks are. Where are we with this? You're right. We have some beautiful, beautiful amenities within Summit County. We are very fortunate with what we do have. What we do here, though, too, is that, you know, it is really tough to get indoor training space, and so whether that be for the soccer organizations, lacrosse, football, you name it, it's tough to get indoor training space, and we're talking all ages.
Which we need 10 months out of the year.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, it just is, you know?
Is.
It completely
Yeah.
is. So there's that one aspect of what you could potentially have in this space. The rec centers do an amazing job in terms of all the programming that they do, but
Right.
they're also at capacity
Yeah.
a lot of the times.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at Silverthorne, and half the gym is
Yes.
basketball, and the other half is gymnastics for a couple days of the week.
Correct.
It's funny because my husband and older son were down in Denver on Saturday, and it was a beautiful day, and there was soccer and this and that and all this and that, and we said, well, it's no wonder so many people even the Summit team spend so much time in Denver, because they have 11 months out of the year where their fields are fine.
Correct.
So it does beg that question as we come up here, is where does that training? You can't go to Denver every weekend for training. That's not,
Correct.
it's just not workable.
Correct. Exactly. And there's so much that you can put in a field house as well. It's kind of where I started with this, is that it's really, what does the community really want and really need? If Silverthorne's challenge, and I only know this because we've been working with them quite a bit, is you're right, half the gym is set up for gymnastics all the time.
Right.
And it's tough on them. It's also tough on space and overcrowding, and what does that look like? So is there an opportunity to look at your spaces a little bit differently to help out with that problem?
So speaking of space,
Yeah.
where would it go?
That's a great question. Of course, right?
Right?
So what we've got going on right now is we are working with a consulting group to answer some of these questions. The first part is the needs assessment. So we're really spending a lot of time on that portion right now, right? We've got the statistically valid survey that we've done. The results are still coming in from that. We'll do this other online survey. It's more of a convenience survey.
So I'm going to pause you for just a second.
do.
On that first, I'm assuming, then you sent it out to people not just in the town of Frisco.
Correct.
But all over the county.
Countywide.
Okay.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
randomly?
Randomly. Yep. Correct.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
we really wanted to get a feel for what are folks really thinking? What is this happening? Because we know once you hit an online survey, you're going to get every type of response that's going to come in there.
Yeah.
And so we really wanted to take that first step.
Sure.
So we've got those two different surveys, plus we've really looked at what do we currently have up here in the county? What are all the sports? What are the trends? What are people asking about? What does that all look like? So we've taken all that information, and that will be presented then to the Board of County Commissioners, the mayors, the managers, just as an overview. Here's what we found out, and here's where we're at. If there is support to move forward after the needs assessment, we move into the questions you're asking. Where does it go?
Right.
What goes in it? How much does it cost?
Right.
Who pays for it?
Right.
All those other questions.
And how much does it cost when I want to go into it?
Correct. All
Because
those-
that's another thing, and I think that's a huge part,
It
is some of this can be pretty expensive.
It can be. It definitely can be.
And I would assume that if you're making something that is going to encourage everybody to come in and use it, teams, things like that, you would want to make it as economical as possible.
Correct.
Right?
It really depends on how the funding of this actually works. You know,
Right.
so there's many unknowns at this point in time.
So your consultant that's coming in to kind of do the needs assessment and things like that, are they also branching into the economic feasibility, or is that going to be?
They are.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. And that's that next step, So the first one is, it's just asking the questions. Is this something that we need in the community? Why do we need this in the community? What are you looking for to even put in a facility of this nature?
And is that going to be part of the online survey?
It is.
Maybe already be
It is.
the first one, but what would you put
Yes.
in it if we got
Correct.
it?
Correct.
That's
Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah, because there's just many different models that are out there as well,
Right.
and so it's what works best for our community is really the question we need to answer. A lot of spaces in these facilities are now rentable spaces as well.
Right.
A lot of them have moved into the realm of kind of the whole athlete, the whole body concept as well. So
Right.
physical therapists, doctors, everything else has a potentially rentable space. You could also have community spaces in there. A variety of different options. So we haven't gotten to those details yet.
Right.
Now we're kind of in this just general thinking of
And
what
I'm
does
really
that look
trying
like.
to stay in that realm with you,
I know.
because all I want to do is ask questions. Is where would it go? I don't know where
I
the
know.
space is. How would you do this? What would you do with that? And I'm
Yeah.
just, that's so interesting. Do you? So it must have come up before, outside of the four entities. What spurred it at this time? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just because of the growth, or?
I think so. I think a little bit of the growth. I think, there have been some current council members from each of our different councils, some previous council members who have really looked at this for years and have said, hey, I really want to start looking at this. I want to see what this looks like. And so the timing seemed right. Plus, I think as I started too, just there's so much development going on at this point in time. And so, we don't have a lot of land left in Summit County that can be developed for something like this. So
that's what I was thinking is where in the world?
Yeah.
Because it would have to be big. I mean, I think we can all agree that it would have to be pretty big.
Definitely so. The one, as an example, there's one over in Edwards, and the one over in Edwards is 57,000 square feet. So it is a big facility.
Right.
Now, it can be bigger, it can be smaller. It depends on what actually goes inside of it.
Yeah.
But you have to have space around it as well for
And what goes on in Edwards?
They have an indoor turf field.
Okay.
And then beyond that, they've got a basketball court. They have trampolines in theirs. They've got dedicated gymnastic space. They have a climbing wall. And then they've kind of got this, it almost serves as an open area. You can come in, like table tennis games, things like just a variety of kind of hangout activities.
Right.
Their gymnastic space serves for a gymnastics team as well as the TOT programs, like the Mom and Me type programs that they do. They also have meeting spaces, rentable spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
And that they don't feel like, and you can stop me if this isn't part of the discussion, I know, but they don't feel like it cannibalizes from like the rec center programs?
No.
You know what I mean?
Definitely not. Wow. And that's what we really wanted to focus on with this as well, is that we don't want to end up having a facility that then is in competition with the Breck Rec Center or the Silverthorne Rec Center. Both those amenities are absolutely amazing.
Right.
And so the last thing you want is that you're ending up with this competition and drawing folks away from that. So it's how does this facility work so it would complement everything we have in the county?
I want to be in on those discussions because that has got to be so cool.
It is fun. We did, the other piece I forgot to mention when we first started this process as well, we brought in a variety of different groups from countywide and interviewed them and talked with them as well. Hey, what does the space potentially look like? What are your needs? How big is your program currently? What's your anticipated growth of your program? Where do you see your program going in the next few years? What are your current space issues? How much do you have to go to Denver for the weather?
Right.
A variety of different things. So we've done many of those discussions as well, which has been
kind of preempting all these surveys.
Yeah.
Wow, it just really gets those wheels really turning.
Yeah.
So you said that the online survey, how can people get to that?
You can go to any one of the 4 sites.
Okay.
So, it's Town of Breckenridge, Town of Frisco, Town of Silverthorne, or Summit County Government.
Okay.
Yep, and then the link is going to be on there. It'll be there through the rest of the month.
Of October.
Okay. Correct, yep. And then and we're just going to be pulling results from there as well to see what's the community saying. And there's also the nice thing about the online survey is there's space available to write in recommendations. So if the question that we're asking you or what we've kind of put out there doesn't work for you, and you're like, man, I want to give some more information here.
Right.
You're welcome to do so. Or on the flip side, if you don't support it, you're also welcome to put as much information in there as you want as well. We want to hear from everyone. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
So when you look at this, it's the end of October, the surveys are done. What's kind of the next step and what's your timeline? Is there a timeline yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were hoping within the first part of November here, we would have all of our information wrapped up. And then that presentation I was talking about that then goes to that next level will probably most likely be kind of towards the end of November, beginning of December timeframe. And that'll give us a good idea then too of what is the support for moving forward into doing these next phases of the study. So if we get to that point, that would be a 2019 project that we would do. Okay. Now, it also depends on where you land with everything, because if something, for instance, one of the concepts that's been talked about has been a rec district. And so that becomes something that becomes a tax. And so what does that then look like, and what does that look like to push that onto out there so it can be a voter question? So, so we're definitely cognizant of that, but we're not there yet. We just don't know what that could look like. Other places have done these as well, where it's a private-public partnership as well. We know that there's different models that are out there. So
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options.
That's fascinating, because then that also brings into play the towns and the county starting to have to budget for this stuff.
Correct.
And so that is, we're almost past budget season here for the town for 2019. So you start to look forward, and that's going to be something that's really going to have to come into discussion too.
Yeah.
Wow, Diane, I think you put a lot of little seeds in all these brains out there.
It's fun. It is really fun. It's
That
good.
is fun. I
good.
think regardless of the outcome of it, I think the discussion is going to be fascinating because we see such a diverse community here.
By far.
In terms of age and needs and wants and things like that. And I think that is going to be it. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and I think that gives us the ability to look at this in a variety of different ways, right? You know,
well, you bet.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think for a long time, folks have said, you know, it isn't just for the kids in the youth sports. It really is for all ages, or it can potentially be, right? And it even could be for. It doesn't necessarily even have to be for everyone of an athletic nature either. You know what I mean? You've got these kind of these hangout spaces, these community rooms. There's so many options of how this could look that, like you said, it kind of gets your mind thinking a little bit.
And it does, and I hope that people take the time to really start those wheels turning and give the feedback, because that's really what you guys are looking for. I mean, you're begging for it.
Correct.
Because this is potentially a huge project.
Correct.
And with all of those entities working together, I think it really is. You guys got to give that opinion, and I feel like so many people are so good about doing that up here. You know,
by far.
Being involved
Completely.
and understanding what all of this takes. But yeah, get it going. So go to your town website if you're watching the Town of Frisco, Focus on Frisco. You know, we're probably looking at Town of Frisco, and that's townoffrisco.com. But you can get all of that information for the other sites. Go on and take the survey if you feel so inclined, and then keep posted, because you guys, I'm sure, will update on the website and throughout the different avenues about what the next step is going to be.
We will, most definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Well, Diane, I know you've got tons on your plate right now, so thank you very much for your time today. I think this is really cool, and I think it's, no matter which way it goes, I'm really excited to hear that feedback. I can't wait to talk to you again, to hear what people said and how the surveys ended up, and things like that. So
most definitely. Thank you.
Right, thanks for your time.
You got it. Yep.
Well, everybody, we want to thank you too for joining us today. What an interesting show. You have been watching Focus on Frisco here on SCTV, and we certainly thank you for joining us. On behalf of the Town of Frisco, Diane McBride, Kelsey Maxey, Brad and Ben, I really appreciate everybody tuning in and everybody putting so much effort into it. So thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.